Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. I'm your host for the evening, Matt Tardio. Israel is relentlessly bombing Gaza still, pretty much as we speak. I've actually got a couple of videos of some new airstrikes that we found in and around the Gaza Strip. There was a report that actually ended up coming out today out of Gaza saying that 115, it was either 115 or 150, I forget, ridiculous number. It kind of reminded me back like during the initial days of the freaking war back in 2023 when they reported 500 civilians get killed at a hospital bombing. So we saw some things like that ended up coming out today. Turns out that several terrorists from Hamas were actually killed inside this bombing. We'll take you guys over to that scene here in just a little bit. And that potentially up to about 15 civilians could have been killed, but we still don't know yet how many because the assessment on the ground has just been really slow coming. Iran is clearly shaking in their little freaking space booties right now. They don't want to play games. The excuses that they're making for why they're doing what they're doing is unbeknownst to me. I mean, like when they come out with the things that they're coming out with, it's just nuts. And I told you guys that when all of this stuff was going to start, as it's going on, that undoubtedly we are going to end up seeing a lot more protests. So we're going to go over that as well. This is actually the one of the articles that ended up finding Israel strike on a school in Gaza. Kills at least 27 people, according to the Palestinian health officials. AP Payne coming in bright and early, throwing out 10 Speak the Truth memberships. Thanks, AP Payne. Greatly appreciate you, brother. I really, really do. It's nuts to me that we're still directly quoting Hamas in a lot of these freaking scenarios and situations. That's the type of stuff that they're coming out and saying. We go down and we look into it, and it says the strike ends up taking place over inside Deir al-Balah. And then Israeli airstrike kills at least 100 Palestinians across the Gaza Strip on Thursday. And what people are doing is they're trying to say that, okay, in this one airstrike, over 100 civilians ended up getting killed. And that's the information that's getting put out in social media. Nothing could be further from the truth. Nowhere near that number was actually killed in this one bombing over in Deir al-Balah. The school that got hit in Deir al-Balah, and we've got some updates from the IDF that I'll put up here on the screen in just a minute. We'll show you multiple terrorists that actually ended up getting taken out. It's just sad. You know, it's sad that we're back to these days of people that have no idea what the hell they're talking about. They're coming in and reporting on these situations. Like, I kind of wish, I don't know, some people's like media, like there was a freaking media license that you'd have to have you would get revoked for just saying the dumbest shit. But it doesn't seem like that's happening, and it's freaking annoying. If you want my honest opinion on it, I'm gonna go ahead and open up some of these other tabs I've got set for you guys so that we can start going over some of this. We've got things coming out of Khan Yunis, coming out of Rafah. I got an airstrike video. It looks like coming out of Yemen as well. And this morning, in case you guys missed it, this will probably be the one thing that I'll show you guys. As all of this begins to unfold, expect to see an increase of terror attacks kind of around the world. The EU, you guys are going to have it hit a little bit harder than everybody else. On this morning live session, I ended up bringing this up, and everybody was like, no way, I didn't even know that happened. But this is over in Amsterdam, all right? And if you guys saw this morning's live stream, good. If you didn't, pay attention to this red truck right here, because this red truck actually ended up turning into a ticking time bomb and going boom. And what you're going to see is right out over here off the side. You guys see this red vehicle down here? It's down at the bottom of the screen. I got my cursor shaking on it. You'll see somebody pouring out the side of this thing, and it was a failed detonation, and then the vehicle ended up catching fire. Watch it. There you see all the people react. The birds start flying away. It was like a low, like it popped, you know, enough to scare the crap out of everybody. And then you're going to see this guy fall right outside the car window right here in just a sec. Wait for it. There he goes. There he goes. Stop, drop, and roll, buddy. Stop, drop, and roll. Yeah. So whenever you're going to, try to blow yourself up, make sure that, you do it correct. Otherwise, you're going to catch fire, and then you're going to have to crawl out your window, and they're going to have to roll in a circle. This guy did end up getting apprehended by the authorities over there. The entire situation ended up getting under control. But point being that this incident right here could have been much larger. I have no idea what type or the amount of explosives that he had inside of this vehicle, but it is enough, right? It is enough that could have killed a buttload of people, right? And injured God only knows how many. Ended up catching the freaking car on fire. I've got like some video of the aftermath. I'm gonna give you guys an earball warning when I turn this on. I'm gonna do my best for when this comes up. But Yeah. So, I mean, like there you can see the car on fire and everything else. And the troubling part to me is that not everybody's really realized what's going on down here. You have emergency crews and stuff like that that are coming up on scene. And one of the bigger issues that people are going to run into with these increase in attacks is more sophisticated terror attacks that are going to be taking place. The problem is when you have emergency crews that aren't trained in this and that they don't realize that these things are going on. One of the common tactics that they'll actually do is they'll wait for first responders and stuff like that to arrive, and then they'll trigger a second device and end up killing a hell of a lot more people. So hopefully we don't see things like that coming into place. Incog Faraday coming in, gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Greatly appreciate you, friend. Really, really do appreciate you. Oh, yes, and Palestinian propaganda, we'll have to bring that up as well. Over at the White House this morning, it also appears as if there was a suspicious package, all right, that ended up triggering an emergency response over near the White House. Check this out.
Hi everyone, it's Allison Steinberg, White House correspondent with Lindell TV. I am trying to get into the White House to report for duty today, but it appears as though there are police lines up that we cannot cross because allegedly there is a mysterious package that has arrived just outside on the other side of the Eisenhower building. That's what we're being told as of now. There's a very heavy police presence here in front of the White House and on all surrounding corners. So I just wanted to give you guys an update. This is the latest, and we will report back with more as we learn more. Stay tuned.
I just see the comment down there. She was the bomb threat. Is that? You freaking nut jobs, man. Every time there's a female on the screen on this channel, I swear to God, it's like I got nothing but a bunch of infantrymen that follow me or something. It's always some weird stuff like that. I also ended up seeing another report out of Washington, D.C. today because of the bombing and because of that report that ended up coming out. A mass stabbing actually occurred over inside of Washington, D.C. And when I first heard of that, I immediately thought, okay, well, now we're going to have another terror-related incident where it's another terror attack. These things are going to continue to increase. Turns out it was just somebody that was high as a kite, that they couldn't, like, he was walking down the street, was stabbing himself, was stabbing the person that was with him, and then went around and started stabbing a bunch of other people. It wasn't terror related. It was literally an altered mental status or somebody with somebody that was just high as a freaking kite, in my opinion. So one of the other. No, Thomas, we did not. That we did not. McGill student intifada. All right. So up in the wonderful country of Canada, they have opened up with these protests again. And these are something that we're going to start seeing more of. Obviously these are in Canada. I can't do it. Obviously these ones are going to be in Canada. And here in this one, they're like blocking people from getting into where they're going. They're occupying buildings. They're doing all sorts of stupid stuff. It's like the pro-Palestinian mentality is back. It's back. As soon as America catches on, because right now I think we're a little bit worried about, I don't know, too much stuff in our own lives. We're worried about shitting on Trump, which I guess is the good thing is, they at least have the ability to complain about something other than Gaza now. But these people up in Canada, they're continuing to do all of these things at McGill University. Some of this stuff did pop off not that long ago over here in the States, and then they ended up crushing it, which was a good thing. But the more and more that this continues to roll, if the U.S. actually starts bombing Iran, if, we start doing things of that nature, if they catch on that we're helping them out with Hamas over in the Gaza Strip, 100%, I think that we're going to have these pop back up at our campuses. And luckily, the administration has done a good enough job getting this stuff under control to where we don't have to frickin' deal with it. Because shit like this, ladies and gentlemen, like, I'm over it. Like, why do they continue to protest the same stuff that nobody cares about? It's beyond me. I have absolutely no idea. Like, absolutely none. And I could bring you video after video coming out of that place of people just being idiots. Can somebody please explain to me why he has a red dot side on that thing? Sky God coming gifting out 20 Speak the Truth memberships. Prayers for me. This is Chatty Loves Israel. Prayers for me. Friends, GWTS plug pulled Saturday. That sucks. I'm sorry to hear that, Chatty. I'm very sorry to hear that. Very, very sorry to hear that. That's not cool. Sorry about that. And Sky God, appreciate you coming in and giving us memberships as well, brother. I really, really do. I love all you guys. For those that don't know, we basically run this channel off donations and a lot of everything that you guys do. So appreciate you guys. Speak the Truth memberships. Everybody, you guys are the ones that actually keep this channel going. So huge shout out to all the true supporters that are in the house today. That's everybody with a green name down in the chat. And I love it because there's so many of you guys in there. I freaking love seeing that. And this thing is going to start picking up a little bit more as we go along. Now, I told you guys that those A-10s were moving over there, so I'm just showing you guys this screen so that you realize that CENTCOM did, in fact, put this information out. U.S. Air Force A-10 Thunderbolts flying over the U.S. CENTCOM AOR. Won't they just get more radical? Most of the college protesters weren't even students. Yeah, they are. You're going to get a hell of a lot more radical extremists over here in the United States of America. And if you look at places like Texas and some of the stuff that's going on over here in the great state of Texas, when we start, don't really want to get into it, but yeah, I would 100% expect to start seeing these things growing more and more. Chris Minahan says, no green love for me. Oh, Chris, it'll be okay. We'll all survive. I'm sorry you don't have the privilege of being a true supporter. It's one hell of a community, but A-10 Thunderbolts flying up over the CENTCOM AOR. And we were talking, I was talking with Texas earlier today about what it is, like, why would the U.S. deploy A-10s over CENTCOM? What's the point of it? It's not like they're going to be going in and bombing Iran and taking care of business that way. And the best way that I can explain to you guys about why we would want A-10s over there goes right back to the same freaking map that I had up on the screen yesterday and earlier today. I'm actually really glad I made this because it's come in handy quite a bit, quite a few times, right? And so if we go in and we start bombing the crap out of Iran right over here, Kataib, Hezbollah over inside of Iraq, Iran came out yesterday, and I forget who it was. It was one of the officers in the IRGC or whatever, saying that you don't throw stones when you live in a glass house. And he's alleging that they're going to go over and they're going to attack U.S. forces, either with ballistic missiles or something of that nature, because they have done that in the past, right? Like when the United States took out Soleimani under Trump's last presidency, they ended up firing ballistic missiles at a consulate building up over in northern Iraq. And it didn't kill anybody, it didn't do anything. But Kataib Hezbollah, a little bit stronger these days. And if they're going to go over and they're going to attack U.S. forces, yeah, those A-10s can come in and like actually start freaking smashing freaking face pretty good. So hopefully that's what they're there for. And yeah, it just keeps going up from there. Right. Over inside of Yemen, we're going to jump down on the map over to Yemen. YouTube deported me. Oh, Pedro Garcia, I'm so sorry, buddy. And Patrick, nice shoes coming in, giving out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Appreciate you, man. Over inside of Yemen, airstrikes allegedly, according to the Houthis. Here we go. Doc Rob, 1989. Red dot is to ensure accurate nut tags. Watch that video on loop. Welcome my niece Madeline to the world. 3/28/25. She just got home. Oh, dude, that's amazing. Congrats, Doc. That's freaking awesome. That's awesome. I don't know. I feel like a less than lethal shotgun though would probably be good for those nut taps. I wouldn't want to get hit with a 40 mic to the freaking groin, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Shit. But yeah, let's go ahead and scroll down and take a look at this. So suspected U.S. airstrikes in Yemen kill at least 6 people, according to the Houthi rebels, also known as Ansarullah. And here you've obviously got the image of Diego Garcia with all of the freaking B-2 bombers that are lined up down there on the runway, right? And it's rumored that we also have B-1s down there as well. But what this actually says is while all of this was taking place and we did that, that Iran had actually came back out and said that they are going to now pull their forces out of Yemen. So any people in the IRGC, Iran wants to pull them out. That's what is currently being reported, is that Iran is pulling members of the IRGC now out of Yemen, okay, which is a big deal if that's actually the case, because we have officially uprooted them. Now, what Iran says, their reasoning for pulling them out, and this is Iran, keep in mind, it's Iran that's saying this. What Iran says is that they pulled those freaking people out of Yemen because they didn't, like, the bombing had got so intense that they didn't want to have any issues if the United States government killed members of the IRGC, because then they would be forced to retaliate, as if that's going to freaking matter, right? Chatty loves Israel coming in, gifting out 99 cents. Appreciate you, friend. That's why. That was Iran's excuse. Not that they're bending to the will of the United States of America, not that they're going to back off, not that they're going to do any of that, but because they don't want their troops to get freaking killed. And that's weird because over inside of Lebanon over the last year and over inside of Syria, we've seen lots of members of the IRGC get schwacked by Israel. And the only time Iran did a damn thing about it, really, besides all of their proxy groups and everything else that they do, not to mention they use their proxy groups to go after us. I'm wearing socks. I see you, Red Talks. I've got pants on and I've got socks on, bro. The only time I see him, like doing something like that was when we ended up smashing into the freaking consulate building over inside Damascus. So why they're bringing this up and they're acting like they're going to do anything out of it is freaking beyond me. Here's the report from the Times of Israel that goes over it, and it's not even really that in depth. But yeah, Tehran has focused its efforts instead on how to respond to U.S. President Donald Trump and his litany of threats, and none of the regional groups we previously supported are being discussed, the official quoted as saying. Their whole idea is just, again, getting out of there. Here you go. The pullback from Yemen is designed to avoid the possibility of escalation if an Iranian soldier is killed in a U.S. airstrike, which is crap. It's garbage. Scott Bevan's coming in and gifting us Speak the Truth membership. Thank you, sir. Dakota says the fart of justice needs to be heard over there. The fart's coming, buddy. The fart's coming. I promise you that. Hope you're having a blessed night, man. God be with you. Thanks, Kaluth. Greatly appreciate you, brother. He is, of course, Kenneth, referring to the freaking A-10 Warthog. And that just going over. And the A-10 is designed to, be like a tank buster to go over there and attack tanks. The A-10 Warthog is actually, supposed to attack tanks, but it gained a hell of a lot of freaking favor in the global war on terror for its ability to conduct close air support and actually smash the enemies. And, one of the other things that I actually truthfully could see those freaking A-10s being used for if Egypt wants to FAFO. Egypt over in the Sinai Peninsula has built up a massive amount of freaking troops. They moved a bunch of armor and equipment and troops over into the Sinai, and Israel just was a couple days ago. I think it was earlier this week is when I first reported on it. Israel was telling the United States that, hey, you guys are supposed to be responsible for enforcing this freaking peace deal that they've had for the longest time. And I'll tell you, if Egypt starts messing around, I could easily see the United States government doing that if need be. I could see our A-10s going over there and just wrecking house on those freaking tanks, and that would be a freaking field day for those guys, man. Could you imagine being an A-10 pilot and just having a Sinai Peninsula full of tanks just to freaking do whatever the hell you want with? I mean, that'd be amazing. It'd be a good time. It would suck. I mean, for the people on the ground, but I mean, it'd be a good time for the A-10 pilots. I want to bring this up before I start getting into the Gaza Strip. This is a video from last year. All right. I want to say I ended up pulling this one. Let me see here. October 25th of 2024. God, it doesn't even seem that long ago, but it sure as hell was when they ended up going in there. This is IDF service members inside Jabalia, inside Gaza, taking a Hamas terrorist EPW, enemy prisoner of war. Now, I put this video up here for a dang good reason, because in all of the hostage exchanges, the prisoner swaps, and all of that crap, you ended up seeing these guys wearing uniforms every single time. They were out acting like they were actually in uniform, being good, honest to God human beings, actually abiding by laws of armed conflict, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're clearly not, right? And as the IDF continues to go and push through the cities, what we're going to end up seeing is we're going to end up seeing a lot more of this crap. And in fact, we are seeing that to this day, to where people are getting shot by the Israeli Defense Force, and they are claiming that they are civilians when really they're not. Yeah, I see somebody said POS and flip-flops. My buddy calls them PWACs, PWAKS, or peasants with AKs. I tend to like that freaking term, PWACs. I think it's a pretty good term for them, to how they go about running everywhere. But I'm bringing that up, and I'm putting it up on the screen now because you know that all of this is going to be coming out here in the very near future. Battlefield Boy 17 coming in with 20 says, I wonder if we snuck something in orbit with all of these rocket launches we'd had the past few years. A strong possibility. Very strong possibility. Dakota, Turkey is sure being quiet with all of the nonsense they talked. Yeah, they sure have been. I think Turkey is actually doing more action than they are anything else. Like, instead of, going out and just saying a bunch of rhetoric, I think we've got Turkey pushing pretty deep down into Syria to support HTS. And if Turkey does play that game over there, and they do go in and they do back up HTS, and they do end up getting in freaking firefights with the Israeli Defense Forces, it's going to be a problem. That is another very real possibility for why those A-10s are over there, ladies and gentlemen. If Turkey was messing around and Turkey goes to right on Israel, I could easily see US A-10 support coming in and smashing them as well. So those freaking aircraft are versatile. They can get used for a buttload of things, and CENTCOM is literally bragging that we ended up throwing them over there because at first, like I told you guys, it was the rumors of the deployment, and now CENTCOM is just in your face. Not only do we have all of this shit, but we brought in freaking A-10s, and good on them for doing it, man. Seriously, good on them for doing it. Let me get this little portion of it up. So we're going to talk about Rafah. I found one report because everything is very, very hard to find with right now about everything that's taking place inside of Gaza, and trying to like battle track and everything else for what these IDF service, like where the IDF is at and what they're doing over inside of Rafah. I mean, I've had to dig really hard. I've spent probably more time digging on this than I have any time in the recent history when we actually had troops moving. Like there was always a lot of information that was pouring out, and right now it's really bogged down. I know I've told you guys that before, so bear with me as we get into this right here. But we're going to go, here we have Israel, and we're just going to keep zooming in. We're going to go down into Gaza. Okay. Reports are right now that Israel successfully had evacuated Rafah. Now, whether or not they have cleared all of Rafah, good question. But as far as evacuations are concerned with the civilians moving out, that allegedly has already happened. The other thing also, okay, is allegedly Israel is now in control of Rafah. I mean, they have surrounded Rafah. I do not know whether or not they have gone through block by block and cleared it out. I don't know any of that. But what I do know, what it would seem, allegedly, is that the IDF now has control of Rafah. Like it's isolated. So that's a very good thing. We're going to go from there, and we're going to go all the way up in the north, and we're going to start talking about this area right up over here. All right, Jabalia or Jabalia, this area right here over in the center, because this definitely appears like one of the very first targets that the IDF is going after. So I do believe that they're going to go in, they're going to ride on that place pretty flipping hard. And it's coming. It's coming. They're currently conducting airstrikes. They're telling people to get the hell out of there. They're doing all sorts of stuff. But that's what's going on. Strikes over inside of Rafah. And I want you to take a look at this particular video as well. You're going to see the bomb drop like right here in the middle of your screen. Maybe if I blow it up really big for you, you can actually see the bomb coming in right there. Okay. Right here in the first frame of this shot. They got this video up just in time. You can see the bomb coming in right there. Why they put that stupid music over there is beyond me. I hate that crap. David Nickerson coming in and gifting us Speak the Truth membership. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you. Now, Rafah is pretty effed up, right? And it was pretty messed up when the IDF was over in there last year, but it is even more effed up now. Couldn't tell you how much damage is from this current campaign versus the last one, but I will tell you that if you look at like these rooftops and stuff and the amount of like thick, heavy dirt with like what's cleared off, like this shit's been here for a while. So I think most of this destruction that you're seeing came from the first time that the IDF was over inside Rafah. I don't think they've been doing that intense of a freaking bombing campaign down inside of there. Otherwise, we'd be getting a heck of a lot more stuff out of there. But up over, like I said, in Jabalia, there was the airstrike that got conducted where everybody is whining, complaining, trying to talk that we ended up taking out a bunch of kids and everything else. These were the pieces of crap that ended up actually getting targeted. These were the guys that ended up getting killed. All right. I can't even bother pronouncing their names. I really don't care. All right. They're just pieces of shit terrorists that Israel ended up schwacking, and now they're all gone. All right. Unfortunately, they also hide themselves amongst the civilians, and Israel has the ability in order to target them. Through net, coming and giving out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Chatty loves Israel. Good night. Good night, Chatty. They're dead. They're gone. No more. Why, oh, why all of this has to happen? You know what I mean? Why, oh, why all of this has to happen is beyond me. Here you go. Here's a report on it. Palestinian health officials, at least 27 have been killed from a strike. All right. Israeli airstrikes kill at least 100 Palestinians across the Gaza Strip, blah, 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 blah. Bodies of 14 children and 5 women were recovered from the school in the Tufa neighborhood in Gaza City, and the death toll could rise because some of the 70 wounded sustained critical injuries. According to the health ministry, more than 30 residents, blah, 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 blah. Now, I have seen the footage that came out of that school, and I cannot put that up on the screen right now, even though I kind of want to. The first time I actually ended up seeing it, I was like, wow, this is a pretty significant strike. They went after somebody. I don't know who it is. It appeared earlier today when that came out. And then we ended up getting the word of those 4 individuals that they ended up going after. So they did a damn good job going in there and getting them. And videos like this are slowly starting to come out of some more and more of those airstrikes that are coming across the Gaza Strip. You can, I forget the name of this bomb that they end up having up there, but check this out. Ears, warning. Oh, man. It's a silent video. My bad. Silent video. I'm so sorry. Silence. Silence. Airstrikes coming in hot. Let's watch that sucker fall again. Boom. It's a good one. It's a good one. You actually see it slamming into the ground. You see the other crap that's coming out of it. And then you see all this black smoke down here. This is like munitions and stuff like that that are cooking off, likely underground. That sucker looks like it slammed down underground and ended up detonating. So it was going after something like that, something of that nature down there underneath the subsurface detonation. So good on Israel for picking those things out. But it's funny to me that, you know, people look at these and they think that they're catching war crimes and they don't realize what they're actually capturing is, you know, Israel doing bad things to bad people over inside Gaza. All right. Southern Lebanon ended up having more airstrikes coming in. I'm not sure who they ended up targeting over inside Southern Lebanon, but this is the video that came out from another airstrike over there. What's that noise? Like, I don't know if you guys can hear the shit cooking off in the background. I'm assuming you can. Heather Scott coming and gifting us Speak the Truth membership. Thanks, Heather. Greatly appreciate you. But yeah, I mean, they're continuing to like ramp up attacks on Hezbollah, and good on them for doing that. And just another airstrike that I think is freaking baller that the IDF ended up throwing out earlier. Let me get this one up on the screen. I believe it was the IDF that ended up putting this one out. But one hell of a freaking airstrike. I can't do the music. Yeah, that's a good one. I guess there was just one too many buildings standing in Gaza, and they had to get it out of the way. That noise was party poppers. Yeah, that's what it was in the video. It was Hezbollah party poppers. It was leftover pagers. It was a pager stockpile that they had that was just cooking off. Those were just their pagers. That's all that was. It was pagers, Motorola's, things like that. That's all it was. Beep, beep. That's what ended up going off. The crazy part to me about this, when you look at this video, and that's one hell of an airstrike, by the way, that ended up taking out that building, right? That's one hell of an airstrike. But this video, as it scrolls out and you start looking around, let me see if I can get it down here towards the end. The amount of destruction that has taken place over there is pretty dang significant. Matt wants to know, are there any wars or military actions you can foresee Trump having to take, whether Palestine, Iran, etc., that will be justifiable and garner support of Americans, or do we stay out of everything? I think in order to explain what's taking place in the Middle East to most Americans, it would be pretty freaking hard, to be honest with you. It would be really, really hard to explain that to Americans. Americans, unfortunately, don't have that big of an attention span at all. And even this, like, what was it, like a 20-minute video that I ended up putting up talking about the Middle East yesterday, it would take something like this, in my opinion, to explain this crap. And even then, you're going to have a lot of Americans, particularly the people that voted for Trump, that are asking, okay, I get that, but why is that our problem? Right? And they're just going to say it again. Why is that our problem? Why is that our problem? Why is that our problem? And they're going to continue to ask that, right? Like, this is the Middle East. How does it pertain to us? Right? And you don't, you know, in the 1920s and 30s, there was an American sentiment that was going around. Same America First sentiment back in the 1920s and 30s. There was some stuff that was going on overseas, and we said that's Europe's problem. We said that's not our problem, and we ignored it. And right now, what we're currently dealing with is the result of saying that's not America's problem. That's what we're dealing with right now. Between what's up on your screen right here and what's taking place over inside of Ukraine, that's all a direct result of America saying this isn't our problem. That's the dang issue over here. And so if we were to do that, and I really value that question, man. That is a solid question. Whether it's going to be in Palestine, Iran, whatever, justifiable to get support of Americans. Well, he's going to need it, right? And I think a lot of people got confused by the way Trump ran for office, the Trump-Vance freaking campaign run, where they were saying peace through strength. Because there's a lot of people right now over, if I take you guys over social media and we go through it and we look at it, there's a lot of people right now that are saying, isn't Trump the guy that campaigned on peace? Well, yeah, he is. He's the guy that campaigned on peace through strength. And that strength is like the key portion of it that I think a lot of people ended up missing. So why they're going to be like, why is Trump doing all this stuff when he was running on peace through strength? Why is Trump doing all these things? Like, we're not supposed to be this violent country. We're not supposed to be these violent people. Why are we being so damn violent? Right? Why are we going after Iran? Why are we bombing the shit out of the Houthis? Why do we have our military might all over the place? And you're going to have red-blooded Americans that are like, yeah, smash, right? America, smash. But explaining a situation like this, it's up on the map to your average American, I think is going to, I don't think they have the attention span for it. And I don't think the average ones are going to understand it. I talk about it this way. How many times driving down the road do you get pissed off at other drivers? And you say, okay, that guy's just an idiot. That guy's a moron. I don't like him. Like he doesn't know what the hell he's talking, like whatever, right? And you're just cussing and you're yelling at other people as you go down the road. I would bet that you do that quite a bit, right? If you're like any other level-headed human being on this planet, when you see stupid people on the road, you probably go off on them. I think of that same way when it comes to voting and when it comes to people having opinions here in the United States of America, that we have those same people that you are yelling and cussing at for driving like morons going down the road that also have the ability to vote. And you should think about that. It's freaking real, and that's how I feel about it. Heather says, if you think it's got nothing to do with us, look at our university campuses. Heather, it's not even that, right? It is, when left unchecked, what it's going to turn into. I agree with you that it's made its way to our university campuses. I agree with you that it's made its ways to places here in the United States of America that they're going to try to take over. But eventually it's going to turn to violence, right? It will, and a lot of violence. So that's my issue. We ignored things during the buildup to World War II. We ignored things as World War II began to rage on, and we still got drug into it. And in my opinion, it's the exact same thing here. And I don't think people understand that. Through a net. I think the issue is, in my opinion, Matt, is that too much of the world took America being the world police for granted, to the point that we took on the world debt to keep the world safe without anything in return. You're correct. It's exactly what happened. I would agree with that statement flat out. We took on too much. We allowed too much. And we did. We decided that we were going to become the world police. And that's the role you take when you are fighting with the Soviet Union to be the world superpower, right? Like, you got to do what you got to do in order to freaking stay in. But we just took it too far. We didn't stop when we should have stopped. We just allowed things to keep going. And I don't know, man, that to me is kind of unacceptable, for the point that we had gotten there. And I think if we are going to get these attacks going in the Middle East, or if we are going to ramp up our support for Ukraine in any way, shape, or form, you're going to need the support of Congress under this administration. You're just going to need it. And unfortunately, let me get this up. Because I told you guys I'd do a video on it, but I ended up not doing a video. What I ended up doing, and I put it up over in the Discord server for everybody. And if you guys want to read this and you want the actual like points and articles and things like that, you can go over to my profile up over on X. Okay. It's, that's me on Twitter right down here. So you can go over to my profile up over there, and you're going to be able to see this. Oh, look, there we are talking. But you go into articles right here at the very top, and you're going to see this. Sadly, Trump is right on Ukraine. How many of you guys have actually read this? I didn't know this existed until I randomly came across it today. I didn't know that this whole freaking thing existed, and I was able to find it, and I came across it today. It came out towards the end of last month, so March 18th. Somehow I missed this. And in this entire freaking article where he says, sadly, Trump is right on Ukraine, he starts off as saying, I rarely agree with Trump, but his latest controversial statements about Ukraine are mostly true, which they're, no. This seems preposterous only because Western audiences have been fed a steady diet of information about Ukraine more than a decade. It's time to set the record straight about 3 key points that eliminates Ukraine as former President Joe Biden, blah, 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 blah. He says, first, as recently documented by overwhelming forensic evidence and affirmed by a Kiev court, it was Ukraine right-wing militants that started the violence in 2014. So that's the first thing that he tries to bring up, is that Ukraine right-wing militants started violence in 2014, and he's going all the way back. Again, this is the issue that I have with most Americans, is their inability to understand the past and do research on it. So if you guys go over to that article and you go to click and you read on it, all these little things with underlines are your references that you can go into it, okay? So it starts off what he's referring to, okay? There was a guy that was in office in Ukraine back in 2014. His name was Viktor Yanukovych. He was elected in 2010, but prior to 2010, the previous election was in 2004. And during 2004, after the election in 2004, Yanukovych technically won, okay? During the election, he won, and then it ended up getting overthrown because he ended up cheating, okay? And when I say he ended up cheating, I mean he got caught cheating. And not just by freaking, not just by the Ukrainians, but here's the Helsinki Committee, all right, that literally comes out and documents it, okay? This is from the U.S., all right, and it ends up telling you guys right down here that he cheated it, all right? And because of that, the election ended up getting overthrown, and they had to run a new one. In 2010 was the next, of course, Yanukovych lost. In 2010, they had another election. Yanukovych won again. Now, both times, he's got the utmost support from Vladimir Putin as he's doing it. Don Reed coming in, gifting us Speak the Truth membership. Thank you, ma'am. I want to make sure I don't lose this. Through a net says, love your work, Matt. Keep up God's work. Appreciate you. So in 2010, Yanukovych ends up running again, right? And he wins this election. And the person that was running against him protested and was like, no, you cheated. And if you go back to this article right here and he talks about it and he brings it up, let me see if I can zoom in on it for you. Stop it. He says it was a free and fair election. Won in a free and fair election in 2010 with strong support from ethnic Russians and the country's southeast. Now, it's also important to understand that this guy, Yanukovych, he ended up coming from the Donbass. Or I'm sorry, he came from Donetsk. And he was ethnically, as far as he was concerned, Russian, very pro-Russian, everything else. But he came from Donetsk. Now, they did determine, international-wise, that it was kind of a fair election. The actual people that got brought in to observe this thing, to observe the election, are these guys right here. I'm going to open it up and I'll put it up on your screen. All right. And they filed their whole report on this sucker, on the elections, but this report didn't come out until after everything had been freaking gone away. The presidential inauguration that took place, Yanukovych is in office. Yeah, you guys want the link for this? Absolutely, I'll supply it to you. Let me grab it for you. I think it's important for people to read history and to know these things. All of this is fact-based. I'm not making any of this crap up. So if you guys want the link for it, yeah, I'll jump it over there. This is what I'm currently going over so that you guys can check resources as I go along, all right? I'll pin it up to the top so that it doesn't lose anywhere. You guys can go over, grab it. You can read it. You can check the resources. You can click on the links and stuff, and you can go over it, okay? Now, here is a list, all right, of just some of the corruption. This isn't even all of it. This is some of the corruption that they ended up finding in the 2010 election, all right? All of this right here. And this is just stuff that I freaking boiled way down. destroying ballots, ballots being removed from polling stations, ballot stuffing, bribery, vote buying, closed-door Central Election Committee decision-making unobserved by the people from the international community that were supposed to be there to freaking observe it, inconsistent instructions from the election committee, all right, how to update voter list and mobile voting requirements, observers being denied entry into polling stations, holy shit, observers being denied oversight to vote counting and tabulation, holy shit, district election commissions temporarily or partial shutdowns during tabulation process. And what they said was that ended up making it way less transparent than they had originally thought. Intimidation of observers, i.e. the people from ENEMO or NMO, I don't even know how to properly pronounce that were supposed to be there observing all of these elections, all right? And more were all detailed throughout the report. All of that crap. It's so crappy. Look at this. Overall evaluation of counting. This is a screenshot I took straight out of that report. Overall evaluation of counting. Bad and very bad evaluation due to negligence and fraud. All of this came out after that election. All of that came out following the election. And if you go to that link and you read this whole freaking report, that's exactly what you're going to find on it. Okay. It'll open up the PDF for you and everything else. And you'll be able to read the whole thing and to go over it. But if you were to take this and you were to look at it and say, okay, would we let this crap fly in the EU? Would we let it fly here in the United States of America? Hell no. Absolutely not. Things like voter intimidation, buying freaking ballots, like all of that crap. No, absolutely not. But that's what was taking place over there. Not having the observers observing the counting and all of the other crap, right? So for that reason, Putin's backing the guy, right? And all of that sounds like previous FSB stuff. And this was something that I tried to explain to people, is that you cannot look at Ukraine like you look at America or like you look at Germany or the UK or anything like that, all right? Because after the collapse of the Soviet Union, Ukraine, well, actually like before the collapse of the official collapse of the Soviet Union, Ukraine got its own little independence. Okay, that 2004 election was taking place about 13 years later. 13 years, that's it. 13 years later. And everybody that was inside the KGB didn't pack up their bags and pull out of freaking Ukraine. They stayed there. All of these pro-Russian folks were still there. I lay this out in the article pretty damn well, because the other thing that a lot of people don't understand is how that corruption works, okay? They just don't. Even to this day, and when people talk about fraud over in Ukraine, or they talk about cheating over in Ukraine, or they talk about things like that over in Ukraine, what they don't get is what that actually means and how bad that actually is. Oh no, is this one not opening up? Let me try it again. I've got this other, hopefully it ends up opening like it should. It's not opening right now for me, so that's annoying. Even this last year, this thing that I was about to open up is from 2025, detailing an FSB nut job getting taken over inside of Ukraine. All right. And he was up in Ukrainian intelligence and they found him and they pulled him out. They are embedded so deep inside of that country, it's hard for most people to imagine because of where they came from. So, yeah. And to quote it, it was from February of 2025. The Security Service of Ukraine, i.e. the SBU, said it arrested a top rat working for Russia's Federal Security Service, or the FSB, within its ranks. This article also that guy talks about, he goes into the protests over in Maidan, and he starts saying that, hey, and again, this is the Hill, and there was a lot of people that looked at this last month and were trying to say that this is for real, this is real stuff. Right, that Trump was right, because look at what this idiot wrote inside the Hill. He said, affirmed even by a Kiev court, it was Ukrainian right-wing militants who started the violence in 2014. That stuff started in late 2013, not 2014. In all of the years following it, when they were going over the prosecutions of everybody that was being killed and all of the violence and everything that was happening, the UN documented human rights violations prior to that. When those protests were happening because Yanukovych, that guy that in 2004 got caught cheating in the election And that in 2010, we have all of these reports of corruption that come out after he's elected. Okay. And now we know he's Putin's puppet, and he was Putin's puppet because Putin was flying into Kiev to go support the guy during the elections and talking about why it was important to freaking support him and all this other crap. Pushing his influence on Ukraine. And so when Yanukovych decided, all right, when Yanukovych decided that he's going to pull out of the EU trade deal, Ukrainians got pissed because they no longer wanted to be under Russia's thumb, but Putin kept shoving it under them. He cites in his freaking article, all right, the Kiev court, overwhelming forensic evidence stating that it was Ukrainian right-wing militants who started the violence in 2014. What an asshole. This is from his source, okay? I ended up taking it and I pulled it from his source. I didn't pull this from anywhere else. I used his own dang source. What he did was he took a tiny chunk out of it and he didn't want to like throw it out there. This right here that I'm about to quote, Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. The excessive use of force by the Burkhan Special Police and other security forces was met with impurity and led to a significant radicalization of the protest movement. That's what I'm talking about. By them doing all these messed up stuff, one of those instances included arresting some of the peaceful protesters, dragging them into jail, beating the crap out of them, torturing them, dragging them out into the cold, and then leaving them and dying. That's the type of stuff that they were doing back then. So they had increased violence far before February of 2014. Violence escalated after 16 January 2014 following the adoption of a set of more stringent anti-protest laws. That happened because all of the protests were taking place. Originally, it was like, you're not going to occupy these buildings, you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that. And then they ended up passing these anti-protest laws. So now, not only are they dragging people, beating the shit out of them, killing them, torturing them for protesting, that happens. Goes a little bit deeper. Violent clashes that occurred between security forces and protesters from 18 to 20 February, including the actions of snipers, resulted in the death of 121 mostly protesters, but also law enforcement officials. Hundreds of people were injured and had to be hospitalized, as some of them remain in critical condition. Those protests is what he's talking about. That day when he says it was the radical right-wing people that did it. That's what Alan Cooperman ended up labeling them as. And so I went over to his freaking source and ended up pulling it. Police returned fire at the militants, who then calmly and bogusly claimed that the police had killed the unarmed protesters. This is his source. This is what he was trying to state, I think. I can't get in his mind, but I think this is what he was trying to state was the cause of it. And it was looking into the trials of the police officers who were getting put on a trial for killing people, for killing protesters. The trial decision specifies that 9 Maidan protesters were killed and 23 wounded by unknown persons who were not law enforcement officers, and that there exists a lack of evidence for the involvement of the Berkut police, 5 of whom were charged with the crimes in these killings and their woundings. That's it. Every crime has a victim. They're talking about the 9 victims of those freaking 121. Not all 121 or anything like that. They're talking about the 9. And the police did open fire, and it is documented. There's lots of footage of it. It exists, and it's freaking gross. It's disgusting. It's gnarly. Because of that shit, because they then went and just started murdering people, that's when they started occupying buildings. That is when freaking, what's his name, ended up, like the president of Ukraine, ended up going over into Russia. Of course he went into Russia. That's when all of that happened. And then Ukraine put in a new government. And then Russia decided it would be a good idea to invade Crimea. That's what happened. That's it. It's pretty cut and dry. You also had the separatists break off. And then you had Russian Spetsnaz going in and freaking fighting in the DPR and LPR out in the east. He did, however, thank God, say that Russia invaded Ukraine and provided the separatists weapons and equipment. But he said that Russia, he called it a deployment of Russian forces to Crimea. I can't make this shit up. He literally called it a deployment of Russian forces. Putin responded by deploying troops to Crimea and weapons to the southeast Donbass region on behalf of the ethnic Russians who felt their president had been undemocratically overthrown, while his backstory does not justify Russia's invasion. It explains that it was hardly unprovoked. False. That statement right there is somebody that doesn't understand history, that never bothered to look into history, that doesn't understand what actually took place, that reads bias articles here and there, and doesn't take the freaking bulk of the information and actually apply critical thinking to it and understand what was going on. That's the issue with people like this. So yeah, then Russia invaded the country. And by the way, this is 20 years after Russia signed the Budapest Memorandum saying that they would respect the sovereignty of Ukraine, along with several other countries. So now they're in violation of the Budapest Memorandum, and they're doing political influence peddling and all sorts of other crap. And they're supposed to, according to the Budapest Memorandum as well, respect the democratic process. Clearly they didn't. It didn't happen. And he goes in and he says, Zelensky is now at fault. He now blames Zelensky for the violence taking place over inside of Ukraine, which is also mind-numbing to me. He says, second, Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky contributed to a wider war by violating peace deals with Russia and seeking NATO military aid and membership. The deals known as Minsk 1 and 2 have been negotiated under his predecessor, Poroshenko, in 2014 and 2015 to end the fighting in the southeast and to protect the endangered troops. So he says Zelensky's in violation of the Minsk agreement. Cool. Let's talk about what those Minsk agreements included. Here is one statement from the Minsk agreement. They were adopted in UN Resolution 2202 in 2015. And you go all the way down to the bottom, and it starts outlining like the different shit that they're supposed to do. You go down to paragraph 10. Withdraw all foreign armed formations, military equipment, as well as mercenaries from the territory of Ukraine under monitoring of the OSCE, disarmament of all illegal groups. That would include the separatists over in the southeast. Oh, yeah, he twisted the crap out of it. That would include them. Clearly, Russia didn't do this. They didn't. And I have proof that Russia didn't do this. You want to see it? It's right here. Minsk Agreement, signed on February 17th, 2015. Obviously, they're still there, and they continue to be there. Russia invaded Crimea, violated the Budapest Memorandum, supplied weapons to the separatists who it wasn't the Russian military because they pinned it off on the separatists that shot down an MH17 with the Buk missile system, killed 298 people aboard that freaking aircraft. Russian troops and Spetsnaz operating in eastern Ukraine, that's a real thing. Not only did they supply him weapons and equipment, they weren't just over in Crimea. And he would have known that if he'd actually done his research. They were also in the Donbass. Because right here, all right, you can actually see in numerous freaking reports of Russian Spetsnaz and different Russian military units that were currently operating at the time over in eastern Ukraine. So they've effed up. Russia did. There's your statements from the Budapest Memorandum. There's a freaking note on it if you want, so that you can go click on it. And then we're going to get into NATO shouldn't be expanding because every idiot on the planet, for some reason, says that Ukraine or the United States basically had promised that we weren't going to expand NATO, right? Talks about NATO membership and NATO aid, basically pushing Russia's buttons. This is a direct quote from Gorbachev in 2014, and there's a link to it right here. And you can go freaking check out the interview with Gorbachev. The topic of NATO expansion was not discussed at all, and it wasn't brought up in those years. Another issue we brought up was discussed, making sure that NATO's military structures would not advance and that additional armed forces would not be deployed on the territory of the then GDR after the German reunification, i.e., the Berlin Wall comes down. Baker's statement was made in that context. Everything that could have been needed to be done to solidify that political obligation was done and fulfilled. That's Gorbachev. That is literally the meeting in which Putin was freaking complaining about, saying that we had promised that NATO is not going to expand east. That's the dumbest shit ever. It's a lie. It's a lie. And it's repeated its way all up the way to the White House numerous times. Mainstream media outlets, everybody will sit there and try to tell you that that's a thing. And here's the other part about it. If we really want to get into it, here's the other part about it. That agreement was made with the Soviet Union. Guess what country doesn't exist anymore? Anybody? Be like saying we made a deal with the Confederacy, so we need to honor that. No, we freaking don't. Even if that was the case, which it's not, we don't. It doesn't exist. So, I made my closing statement in this thing because I had said it this morning. Did Ukraine actually provoke Russia? Sure. The same way a husband provokes a divorce for arguing with his wife after she births the mailman's baby. That's how ridiculous it is. It drives me nuts that people can't do the most basic research and they have major mainstream media outlets. Absolutely insane. Ladies and gentlemen, I highly recommend you go grab that article, you share it with your friends, because there's actual facts in there. That Matt is talking about damn autocorrect. Yeah. You have to look into these things. You have to look into the past to understand why we're at where we're at. And just like in World War II, in the lead up to U.S. involvement, where we thought that's not America's problem, we're seeing the exact same thing today happen over in the Middle East and over in the EU. You just wait. Mellow Yellow. If the U.S. stopped all the Russian shadow oil tankers that would bring the Russian economy down, the U.S. stopped all the Russian shadow oil tankers that would bring the Russian... Mellow Yellow, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, we put out some additional sanctions. And that's the other thing that people were complaining about was, where's all the tariffs on Russia? Dude, have you not looked at what it takes to get that done? Like, we have sanctioned the shit out of them. If you go over to like the international, I think it's like the International Trade Commission or whatever, they caution basically everybody from doing business with Russia. KD87 says, how safe is it to visit Japan right now? Family is there. Wanted your thoughts and opinions. Thanks, man. Sorry, don't want to get off track. As far as Japan's concerned, I think you're okay. I think you're okay going over to Japan. I haven't looked into it that much, but off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. High school buddy lives there. No issues I know of. There you go. Finn Diesel's got it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. Hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. Hope you enjoyed all the information that we ended up putting out today. Take that article and share it. If you guys haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you do.